Okay, the Allman Brothers Band.
I first met Jack Latimer when he discovered an Allman Brothers road case by very unusual circumstances. And we sat down and we talked about it and talked about the unusual way that he was able to get his hands on this case that is featured on the cover of Fillmore East album. And so here we are again. Jack has rediscovered another case, case number 2. This case was the Mike cable box for the Allman Brothers that literally sat on the stage somewhere during live performances. But more than that, this case also has an undeniable connection with the first case that Jack was able to come across. And Jack tells us that story.
You know, y'all have already heard the story about this case that's on the album, the conga case that belonged to the band or J-Mo. And lo and behold, I have been fortunate enough to acquire this case. It was just found. It just appeared. I acquired this case not even knowing exactly what it was, but I knew it was something. And after I got it, I started finding out tons of stuff about it, and I didn't know why it had these stencils on it until I was sitting in a chair and it just come to me. But I talked with Richard Brent at the big house, and he checked with a couple of roadies or a couple of guys that's still alive, because some of the roadies have passed. And I was wondering why it had the number 2 on the top, and they said this was known as the cable box, one of them. And they had numbered the cable boxes like 1, 2, you know, whatever. And this is number 2 cable box. And the 2 was put on there real early by probably Twigs Linden or the Red Dog or some of them. And it was like that for a long time. But the story about this one is what happened to it on the day of the Fillmore East album cover shoot. On the morning of the shoot, when the band got out there, Jim Marshall and the roadies pulled up, you know, in the truck, and they were unloading all the cases and stacking them up and everything. And the band and everybody's going, why are we having to do this early this morning like this? And you know, they were just like aggravated because it was kind of cold. It was in April. And so there they were, and before they started shooting for the album cover, some of the roadies was setting up the cases up against the wall. Some of them were over here getting the cases ready to be stenciled, and to stencil the case that is on the album cover. The Allman Brothers Band at Fillmore East. Okay, when I got this case, I was sitting in the chair over there and I'm thinking, why has this case got The Allman and Brothers on the top, when all the other ones before the album shoot, way back in '69, they done stenciled them fragile in little bitty letters, Allman Brothers. And I'm thinking, why has this got big letters in The Allman? All of a sudden, it's like, bam, it come to me. I said, God Almighty. I remember the box, the speaker case that they stenciled. If you go to the big house, they have that case. And on the back of it, they stenciled first, and it messed up. The stenciling wasn't correct. And it messed up, and the paint ran and all that stuff, and it messed up. This is what they agreed had to have happened, is when they messed up the other stenciling on the case, they redone the stenciling. This has been dubbed by the big house, by Richard Brent and some of the other ones as. It's number 2 cable box, of course, but this has been dubbed the practice case because they practiced the stenciling in the corner like it was going to be on the corner on that box. They practiced it, and then they said, it's going to work, let's go, let's do it. And probably 2 or 3 of them was over here doing that. Nobody else was paying no attention. And when they got the major case stenciled, they set it up there. Then they set some of this stuff that was in the way back in the truck. Then they started taking photographs. Jim Marshall said, okay, here we go. Well, they didn't even want to do that morning. Nobody was smiling. Everybody's, like, God almighty, why are we out here? And then I think Jim Marshall said, well, shoot a bird at the camera. Then I'm sure the roadies had done got up in the back of the truck sitting around to be out of the way and kind of out of the wind. They said, here, we're gonna shoot one. And Jim Marshall turned the camera. They shooting a bird to Jim Marshall and the camera. And here they done put this box, which didn't have no stenciling on it till the day of the Fillmore East shoot. It's not on the album cover, but it's one, if you think about it, it's very important because it was sitting to the side, and before the album cover case had that on it, this had it. This had it first. In the picture, it's got it like a shipping decal that slants upward, and over the years, it came off, but when whoever sprayed the stenciling over here, nobody's paying any attention, they's just trying it out. They sprayed over the decal, and they sprayed the E and the part of the A over the top of the decal, and over the years where this thing had sat, and for 50 years, the decal peeled off all but some of the paper. It took the E off and the top of the A, and so that's why it's like that right there. And they were trying the E out, and you can see on the case, you can look up close, and this has the T over, way over, and kind of leaned over to the left, like on the front of the album cover and on this box. So for everybody that cares, that's what this story is about. Is I had to tell that about this because this box has just come out of where it has been for 50 years. It definitely can be called a Fillmore East case because it was at the shoot, and this had the stenciling on it before the dadgum case on the album. But the main thing I'm trying to stress on the fact on this one is this case, more than likely all their early gigs, I mean before people even knew who the Allman brothers were, and then later on building up to the Fillmore East, this case sat on the stage, and I have evidence where more than likely they set Greg Allman's Leslie speaker cabinet on this case all the time, and they used it to set sometimes other things up here. When I found this picture, I'd never seen this picture, but anyhow, I looked and looked, and I found this picture, and I know it's this case because down here in this corner is this side, and the sun is hitting this case right here, and there's a scratch, a fresh big scratch down on the side. This case has that same scratch, but over 50 years it's dulled with age. It's not shiny like that, and it has the identical scratch, and I don't know if this is before it was stenciled or after, but you can't see that. This case, most of the time, was on the stage, and it didn't have any stenciling on it than somebody spray painted the 2 on there, which is not a stencil. But the day of the Fillmore East shoot is when this case come alive and got the Allman and then they put the up here trying it, maybe first. The brothers, and I'm sure Red Dog, I'm sure Kim Payne and Joe Dan Petty, you know, some others, they were all over here doing stuff. Everybody was busy. They said, heck yeah, stencils are gonna work. Give me the other case was probably sitting over here. They sprayed it, bam, there it was.